My name is Emma Carter, and for 32 years, I lived under a shadow. A shadow cast by a family who saw me not as a person, but as a perpetual project, a burden, or at best, an afterthought. Last night, that shadow finally lifted, replaced by a chilling clarity that solidified my path forward. Last night, at our weekly Sunday dinner, I finally worked up the nerve to tell them I was in trouble. I said I was about to be evicted, that I just needed $2,000 to keep my apartment. And they had no idea I was testing them. No idea that in my new private bank account, there was a balance of over $45 million. The aroma of roasted chicken and garlic mashed potatoes usually filled my mother's home with a comforting warmth, a deceptive veil over the underlying chill that permeated our family interactions. But last night, even the familiar scent felt alien, an accomplice to the charade I was about to perform. My hands, clammy and trembling slightly, gripped the stem of my water glass. I could feel the familiar knot of anxiety tightening in my stomach, a sensation I'd known since childhood, whenever I had to ask for anything or simply express a need. I watched Jamal, my older brother, as he devoured his second serving, his booming laugh echoing through the dining room as he regaled everyone with a story about a hapless colleague. His wife, Ashley, sat beside him, impeccably dressed, her eyes scanning the room, assessing, judging, always. My mother, Eleanor, sat at the head of the table, a placid smile on her face, occasionally interjecting with a well-timed, often passive-aggressive remark. They were a perfect tableau of my life's biggest challenge, a family so engrossed in their own narratives, their own comfortable bubbles, that they had no space, no genuine empathy for anyone else, especially not for me. For years, I had been the struggling artist, the dreamer with her head in the clouds, the one who needed a little extra help. It was a role they had assigned me, and one I had, for a long time, unwittingly played. My attempts at independence, my quiet successes, my ambitions, they were either ignored, belittled, or simply never seen. When I'd tried to share my passion for digital art, my mother had suggested I get a real job. When I'd excitedly talked about a small freelance project, Jamal had snorted, "Still playing with computers, Emma? Maybe you should try coding. There's money in that." He'd meant it as a joke, a jab at my perceived lack of financial acumen. But they were wrong. So profoundly, spectacularly wrong. While they watched me fumble, or so they thought, I was quietly building an empire. It began 5 years ago with a small, almost accidental investment in a then obscure cryptocurrency. I'd seen a white paper, something resonated with me, and I poured every spare penny I had, every dollar I earned from my legitimate, though modest, freelance graphic design work into it. It was a leap of faith, a desperate gamble by a woman tired of being overlooked. That initial investment, barely enough to buy a decent used car, grew and grew, and then it exploded. The digital currency I had backed became a global phenomenon, and my small stake ballooned into a fortune that dwarfed anything my family could ever imagine. I liquidated part of it, diversified, invested in a few promising tech startups, and watched my net worth climb higher and higher. The $45 million in my account was just the liquid portion. My total assets were even more staggering. I kept it all a secret. Not out of malice, initially, but out of self-preservation. I knew, with a certainty born from years of experience, that if my family knew, they wouldn't celebrate me, they would celebrate my money. They would see me as a resource to be tapped, a problem solver for their own woes, a bottomless well of financial support. I needed to know if I was wrong. I needed to know if, stripped of all pretense, they would still see me, their daughter, their sister, in genuine need and offer a hand. So I crafted the lie. I chose the amount carefully, $2,000. Not so much that it would seem outrageous, but enough to be a genuine struggle for someone in my supposed position. I rehearsed my lines, the slight tremor in my voice, the downward gaze, the carefully chosen words that hinted at despair without being overly dramatic. I needed to be convincing. Mom, Jamal, Ashley, I began, my voice barely above a whisper, drawing their attention from their plates. The clinking of cutlery stopped. 3 pairs of eyes turned to me, a mixture of mild annoyance and reluctant curiosity on their faces. I have something difficult to tell you. My mother's placid smile faltered. Emma, dear, what is it? Is everything all right? Her tone was laced with a practiced concern, the kind she reserved for minor inconveniences. You're not pregnant, are you? She added, a hint of disdain in her voice, as if the very idea was an affront to her sensibilities. I forced a weak smile. No, Mom, nothing like that. It's my apartment. I'm behind on rent. I'm about to be evicted. I just need $2,000 to keep it. The words felt like ash in my mouth. I watched their faces, my heart pounding, a fragile hope flickering within me. Jamal, mid-chew, stopped. He looked at me, then at Ashley, then back at me. A slow grin spread across his face, and then he laughed. A loud, boisterous, dismissive laugh that echoed through the room, making the crystal glasses on the table vibrate. $2,000, Emma? Again? Didn't you just ask for help with bills last year? His words were a punch to the gut, a casual dismissal of my fabricated desperation. Ashley, ever the picture of refined elegance, merely smirked into her wineglass. Her eyes met mine over the rim, a flicker of triumph, or perhaps pity in their depths. "Oh, Emma," she sighed, her voice dripping with mock sympathy. "You really must learn to manage your finances. Perhaps you should cut back on those artistic supplies." She knew I hadn't bought new supplies in years, but the jab was intended to land, and it did. My mother, Eleanor, didn't laugh. She didn't smirk. She just sighed. A long, exasperated sigh that conveyed more disappointment and irritation than any outright condemnation. "Emma, darling, must you always be so dramatic? It's just money. You'll figure it out. You always do. Why don't you ask your landlord for an extension, or perhaps find a roommate?" Her eyes then drifted to Jamal, a silent plea for him to change the subject, to restore the comfortable illusion of their perfect Sunday evening. The fragile hope I'd harbored shattered into a million pieces. The knot in my stomach tightened, but this time it wasn't anxiety. It was a cold, hard stone of resolve. They hadn't even bothered to ask why I was in this position, or if I was okay. They hadn't offered a single word of genuine comfort, let alone a promise of help. They simply dismissed me, as they always had. I stood up, pushing my chair back with a scrape that made them all jump. "You're right," I said, my voice steady, devoid of the tremor I'd feigned moments before. "I always do figure it out." I didn't wait for a reply. I walked out, leaving the half-eaten chicken and mashed potatoes behind, leaving their comfortable, self-absorbed world and stepping into a new one, a world where I held all the cards. The drive home was a blur. The initial sting of their betrayal quickly gave way to a chilling calm. It was over. The test was done, and they had failed spectacularly. I pulled into my modest apartment complex, the one I had meticulously chosen to maintain the facade of a struggling young woman. Inside, the walls felt like a sanctuary, a safe haven where my true self, my true power resided. I sat at my desk, the glow of my monitor illuminating my face. I opened my banking app, the one linked to my secret account. The balance stared back at me. $45,037,210.12. $45 million. And change. A stark, almost comical contrast to the $2,000 they couldn't be bothered to spare. The irony was a bitter, satisfying taste on my tongue. My journey to this point wasn't just about money. It was about validation, about reclaiming my narrative. Growing up, I was always the quiet one, the artistic one, which in my family's lexicon meant unambitious or unlikely to succeed. Jamal, the golden boy, excelled in sports and later in business, always receiving praise and financial backing from our parents. Ashley, his wife, came from money, and her every whim was indulged. My mother, Eleanor, lived vicariously through Jamal's successes and Ashley's social climbing, often subtly and sometimes not so subtly, contrasting my perceived failures with their triumphs. I remembered a time, in college, when I'd needed a new laptop for my design coursework. I'd asked my parents for help, explaining it was essential for my studies. My mother had told me to be resourceful, while Jamal had received a brand new car for his graduation. I ended up working 2 part-time jobs, saving every penny, and buying a refurbished model, which I lovingly called Phoenix because it rose from the ashes of my frustration. It was Phoenix that I later used to research and invest in that obscure cryptocurrency, that I used to build my first few digital art portfolios that slowly gained traction online. They never knew about Phoenix. They never knew about the sleepless nights I spent learning about blockchain, about market trends, about the intricate world of decentralized finance. They never saw the grit, the determination, the sheer willpower that propelled me forward. They only saw what they wanted to see. Emma, the one who always needed a handout. My decision to keep my wealth a secret wasn't just about avoiding exploitation. It was about a profound need to prove to myself that I could do it entirely on my own terms, without their judgment, their interference, or their conditional love. It was about creating a space where my success was purely mine, untainted by their influence. Now, the game was about to change. My family had shown their true colors, and I had all the evidence I needed. The question wasn't if I would exact my revenge, but how. It wouldn't be a theatrical outburst, a dramatic reveal where I threw money in their faces. No, my revenge would be a slow burn, meticulously planned, and profoundly satisfying. It would be a mirror held up to their faces, reflecting their own greed and indifference back at them. I continued to live my struggling life for a few more months, a brilliant performance that fooled everyone. I'd decline invitations to expensive outings, citing budget constraints. I'd wear slightly worn clothes to family gatherings. I'd even mention, in passing, how tough things were, how I was looking for a second job. Each word was a carefully placed brick in the wall of their perception, making my eventual reveal all the more devastating. During this time, I also started observing them more closely. Jamal's business, a mid-tier marketing firm, was not doing as well as he let on. I overheard snippets of phone conversations, saw the stressed lines on his face. Ashley's lavish lifestyle, funded largely by Jamal, was creating a significant financial strain. My mother, Eleanor, while comfortable, had a habit of overspending on renovations and luxury items, always assuming Jamal would bail her out if needed. They were all living on the edge of their means, relying on each other, but most importantly, relying on the illusion of stability. Then, the first opportunity arose. Jamal's business hit a major snag. A large client pulled out, leaving him with significant losses and looming debt. He was frantic. I heard about it through the family grapevine, carefully pretending to be concerned but distant. He called me, something he rarely did, his voice tight with desperation. "Emma, listen, I know you're strapped for cash, but do you know anyone who could lend me a few thousand just to tide me over until I land a new client?" My heart pounded, but my voice remained calm. "Jamal, I wish I could help, you know I do, but I'm barely making ends meet myself. I'm still trying to pay off that 2,000 I needed a few months ago, remember? I'm truly sorry." The lie rolled off my tongue effortlessly. I could almost hear his disappointment, his frustration through the phone. He hung up abruptly, without even a goodbye. Ashley was the next. Her designer handbag collection was legendary, but her credit card debt was mounting. She approached me at a distant cousin's wedding, her usual air of superiority replaced by a strained politeness. Emma, darling, you're so good with numbers, aren't you? I was wondering if you could help me look over some bills. I'm just so overwhelmed. It was a thinly veiled attempt to gauge my financial situation, to see if I was a potential source of funds. I politely declined, citing my own financial struggles and my lack of expertise in high-end budgeting. Her face fell, the mask of politeness slipping to reveal a flash of irritation. My mother, Eleanor, was the hardest to deny. She wanted to embark on a massive kitchen renovation, one she couldn't truly afford, convinced it would increase the value of her home. She called me, her voice sweet and cajoling. Emma, honey, you're so creative. I was hoping you could help me design the new kitchen. And perhaps you could lend me a little something to get started? Just a small loan, darling. I'll pay you back when Jamal helps me out. This was the moment. The culmination of years of being overlooked, of being deemed unworthy, of being seen as a perpetual charity case. I took a deep breath. Mom, I said, my voice firm, I can't. I'm sorry. I simply don't have it. I told you, I'm still struggling to keep my own apartment. I can't afford to help anyone right now. There was a pause, a stunned silence on the other end of the line. Then, her voice, laced with a coldness I rarely heard directed at me, cut through the phone. Well, Emma, that's truly disappointing. I always thought family looked out for each other. I guess I was mistaken. She hung up, a sharp click that resonated with the finality of a door slamming shut. That was it. The final thread of any familial obligation snapped. They had all come to me, not out of concern for my well-being, but out of a desperate hope that I, the struggling Emma, might somehow be their last resort. And I had denied them, just as they had denied me. The stage was set for the grand reveal. The opportunity came in the form of an invitation, not from my family, but from a prestigious tech conference. My former co-founder, now a close friend, had insisted I attend as a keynote speaker. Our company, which had been acquired by a major tech conglomerate, was being celebrated for its groundbreaking innovation, and I, as one of the original architects, was asked to share my journey. It was a public event, live-streamed, attended by industry leaders and media alike. I accepted, and then I subtly made sure my family would know about it. I posted a cryptic message on social media, something about an exciting new chapter. I knew Ashley, with her insatiable curiosity and social media addiction, would see it. And she did. She then, predictably, managed to get tickets for herself, Jamal, and my mother, probably hoping to rub shoulders with some influential people, unaware of the true star of the show. The day of the conference arrived, a crisp autumn morning filled with anticipation. I chose my outfit meticulously, a sleek, tailored power suit that exuded confidence and authority, a far cry from the faded jeans and oversized sweaters they were used to seeing me in. My hair was styled, my makeup subtle but impactful. I looked in the mirror, and for the first time in my life, I saw a woman who was truly in control. As I walked onto the stage, the roar of applause was deafening. Spotlights illuminated me, and I felt a surge of adrenaline, not fear. I scanned the audience, my eyes searching, and there they were, Jamal, Ashley, and my mother, seated in the middle rows, their faces a mixture of confusion and mild curiosity. They hadn't recognized me initially, not fully. They probably thought I was just some random speaker, maybe a junior executive. I began my speech, recounting my journey, the early struggles, the years of hard work, the vision that propelled me. I spoke of the challenges, the naysayers, the people who doubted my capabilities. I spoke of Phoenix, the old, refurbished laptop that had been my companion through it all. And then I spoke of the moment our company went public, the acquisition, and the immense success. As I spoke, I watched my family's faces. Confusion turned to dawning recognition, then to shock, and finally to utter disbelief. Jamal's jaw hung open. Ashley's perfectly made-up face paled, her eyes wide with a mixture of envy and horror. My mother, Eleanor, looked as if she'd seen a ghost, her placid smile completely gone, replaced by a gaping expression of stunned realization. And throughout it all, I concluded, my voice resonating with power, I kept my journey private. I chose to build my success in silence, to ensure that the fruits of my labor were truly mine, untainted by external expectations or conditional support. I paused, letting the words hang in the air, letting them sink into the hearts of the three people I had invited there for this very moment. I learned a long time ago that true family support isn't about what you can gain from someone, but what you're willing to give, even when there's nothing to gain in return. It's about seeing someone's worth, not their net worth. The applause was thunderous. I stepped down from the stage, my heart soaring, a lightness I hadn't felt in years washing over me. As I moved through the crowd, accepting congratulations, signing autographs, I saw them. They were trying to push through the throng, their faces frantic, desperate to reach me. Jamal was the first to break through, his hand reaching for my arm. Emma, Emma, is that really you? 45 million? Why didn't you tell us? We could have helped you. His voice was a pathetic whine, completely devoid of the booming confidence I was used to. I gently removed his hand. My gaze was steady, unwavering. Helped me, Jamal? You laughed at me when I told you I was facing eviction for $2,000. You ridiculed my artistic supplies. You dismissed my pleas for help, just as you always have. Ashley pushed past him, her eyes glistening, a forced smile plastered on her face. Emma, darling, you know we always believed in you. We were just trying to teach you resilience. This is wonderful. We should celebrate. You must tell us all about it over dinner. She was already trying to weave herself back into my narrative, into my newfound success. I met her gaze, a cold fire in my eyes. Resilience, Ashley? Or indifference? You smirked into your wineglass as I laid bare my fabricated desperation. You judged my finances without a shred of understanding or concern. And as for dinner, I think I've had quite enough Sunday dinners with this family to last a lifetime. Then, my mother, Eleanor, reached me, her face crumpled, tears welling in her eyes. Emma, my dear girl, how could you? How could you keep this from your own mother? I'm so proud of you. We're family, Emma. We stick together. She reached out to hug me, but I took a step back. Family, Mom? I asked, my voice calm but firm. When I came to you, genuinely vulnerable, asking for a small amount of help, your response was to sigh and tell me to stop being dramatic. You never saw me, Mom. You only saw the inconvenience I presented. I looked at each of them, letting my words sink in. I didn't keep this from you to hurt you. I kept it from you to protect myself. And when I tested you, you confirmed every single one of my fears. The silence that followed was deafening, filled with the unspoken weight of their shame and my liberation. I turned away from them, leaving them standing there, exposed and humiliated, amidst the bustling crowd. I walked towards the exit, towards my new life, a life where I was no longer defined by their expectations, their judgments, or their conditional love. A life where my worth was self-evident and my fortune was truly my own. In the months that followed, the attempts at reconciliation came fast and furious. Phone calls, emails, even unannounced visits to my old apartment, which I had long since vacated. I ignored them all. I didn't need their apologies, their forced pride, or their desperate attempts to reconnect now that I was wealthy. I had learned a valuable, albeit painful, lesson. Some relationships are simply not worth salvaging, especially when they're built on a foundation of neglect and exploitation. I moved into a beautiful new penthouse, started a foundation to support young artists and tech entrepreneurs, and traveled the world. I built a new family, one chosen through genuine connection, mutual respect, and unconditional support. My life was finally, truly my own. The shadow was gone, and in its place was the bright, unburdened light of my own making. The taste of revenge was sweet, yes, but the taste of freedom, that was exquisite.